Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely pumped today because we're breaking down what has to be one of the most fascinating matchups in recent tennis history. We are talking about the historic Thursday, July 9th Wimbledon semifinal clash between two absolute powerhouses, Coco Gauff and Karolina Muchova.
Now, on the surface, this might seem like a pretty straightforward narrative. But the big question we're asking today is, who holds the real edge when the public and the professional bettors just completely disagree? We're going to look way past the superstar narrative and really dive deep into what the data, the analytics, and the sharp money are seeing in this center court showdown.
Okay, Section 1, Wimbledon Semis, a clash of styles.
So let's set the stage here. Two extraordinary journeys, one spot in the 2026 Wimbledon final. Both of these women have fought incredibly hard to survive a grueling fortnight. Think about it. Muchova is fresh off eliminating four-time Grand Slam champ Naomi Osaka, while Gauff just battled her way past fellow American star Jessica Pegula. Only one gets to punch their ticket to the final.
Moving right along to Section 2, Gauff's gritty run, heart and resilience.
Now, Gauff actually burst onto the scene here at Wimbledon as a 15-year-old, but remarkably, it took her 7 years on tour to reach this specific semifinal. And speaking of the number 15, that actually represents her tour-leading 3-set wins this season. 4 consecutive matches this fortnight have gone the distance. It just highlights her immense heart and her absolute refusal to panic. When matches get messy and tight, she just does not fold.
But it hasn't exactly been pretty. In fact, Gauff recently compared her forehand to Shaquille O'Neal's famously terrible free throws. She laughed about how Shaq always claimed he was making them when they count. It's such a funny comparison, but man, it is so true for her right now. Her forehand can completely break down sometimes, and her serve mechanics have had some well-documented struggles. Yet, just like Shaq in the fourth quarter, she somehow finds those critical shots right when the pressure is highest.
Despite those mechanical blips, she's building an absolutely undeniable profile. She's the youngest player since 2007 to reach all 4 Slam semis. And she overcame a 2-year winless streak on grass to get here. To mask those mechanical issues, she's actually using a much more aggressive serve right now. But make no mistake, the double faults are still lurking, just waiting for a smart opponent to exploit them.
Which brings us to Section 3, Muchova's Tactical Masterclass. Masterclass on grass.
This matchup is literally a textbook clash of styles. You've got Gauff's raw power and grit going right up against Muchova's elite transition game and baseline slices. Muchova changes the pace so brilliantly. Her game is so versatile and aesthetically pleasing that she's genuinely drawn comparisons to Roger Federer's mastery at the All-England Club.
And Muchova is riding some ridiculous momentum. She's on a 9-match win streak on grass, coming off a title in Bet Hamburg, and she's just become the 4th Czech woman in the Open era to reach all major semis. But wait, here's the absolute wildest part. Karolina Muchova is literally allergic to grass. Seriously, she relies on pills and sprays just to manage her symptoms out there. Dominating at Wimbledon while having a physical allergy to the surface? That is just wild.
Now, what's really interesting about the data is the massive discrepancy in their serve holds. In 2026, Muchova is boasting an elite hold rate of 77.4% compared to Gauff's pretty shaky 65.7%. To put that into perspective, it is incredibly hard to win massive tennis matches when your serve is that vulnerable, especially against an ultra-aggressive returner like Muchova. It gives the Czech start a huge, highly tangible edge.
All right, let's look at Section 4, Head-to-Head History, a flipped script.
So historically, this has been one of the most lopsided rivalries on tour. Gauff had built up this dominant 6-0 win streak, completely owning the matchup. Just look at the Miami Open in March. Gauff cruised 6-1, 6-1. But then, the Stuttgart Open in April happened. Muchova finally broke through, winning a really tough 3-setter on clay. That is a real game changer. It means Muchova steps onto the court today without that mental block, with a much, much clearer mind. And if we look at the advanced metrics, they tell a pretty compelling story too. Take a look at these ELO ratings, which, if you aren't familiar, is basically a catch-all metric for overall player performance. As of late June, Muchova sits at 2,088.3, mathematically edging out Gauff at 2006.3. So statistically speaking, Muchova has actually been the better overall player in 2026.
This brings us to our final act, Section 5, the sharp money edge, fading the public. Let's see what the sportsbooks and professional bettors are doing here.
The public perception is heavily skewed toward the superstar American. We're seeing a whopping 75% of the tickets and money pouring in on Coco Gauff. The public absolutely loves her narrative, her grit, the whole shebang.
But here is where we need to talk about a really crucial betting concept called reverse line movement. This happens when the betting odds move in the exact opposite direction of the public betting percentages. It is a massive red flag. It tells us that the sharp money, the professional, highly successful bettors, are quietly dropping large amounts of cash on the other side, forcing odds makers to adjust the lines against the public.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what's happening today. Gauff opened at -110, but despite having 75% of the public backing her, her odds shifted to plus money. The sportsbooks are practically begging people to bet on Gauff. That tells us the smart professional money is heavily fading the public and backing Muchova to win. In fact, betting analysts are confidently recommending taking Muchova on the money line at -118.
So we are left with this totally fascinating collision of narratives. On one hand, you've got the beloved superstar with a gritty heart, heavily backed by the public. On the other, you've got the mathematically superior, tactically brilliant veteran backed by the sharp money, who, by the way, is allergic to the very grass she's playing on. So will the superstar perception hold up, or will the sharp reality prevail on center court? It's going to be an absolute thriller to watch. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and enjoy the match.